Interesting how the people you support the most are often the first to fail you. I'm Stacey, and for 3 years I handed my parents $700 every single week, no questions asked. It wasn't charity. It wasn't a loan. It was me trying to keep my family together while juggling my job, my child, and the pressure of being the dependable one. But last month, everything broke. My son's birthday arrived, his favorite day of the year, and my parents didn't show. Not a text. Not a call. And when I finally heard the reason, it shattered something inside me forever. I didn't start paying my parents out of guilt or debt. I paid them because I genuinely believed we were a team, a family that helped each other. Growing up, my parents always preached sacrifice, responsibility, and taking care of our own. So when I became a single mom at 24, working 2 jobs and barely keeping my head above water, I wasn't surprised when they stepped in to help. Only later did I realize their definition of help came with a price tag. Back then, the offer sounded like a blessing. "Stacey, just bring him here. We'll watch him while you work," my mom had said. "And don't worry about money. We'll figure something out," my dad added. But within a month, figuring something out turned into, "We'll need something to cover food and utilities. Then, we're giving up our time for you. And finally, you're a grown woman. You should contribute." It started at $200 a week. Then $350. Then $500. And eventually, after a few tense conversations, it solidified at $700 every single week. I remember staring at that number written on a sticky note on the fridge. My dad had written it like it was a business invoice. The first time I paid it, my stomach knotted. $700 was almost the amount of my rent. But they were my parents. They were helping with childcare. They needed support. At least, that's what I told myself. People sometimes ask me why I didn't just hire a babysitter or put my son in daycare. The truth? Daycare waitlists were months long, and babysitters in my area charged more than my hourly wage. My parents' house was the only feasible option. And despite the cost, I tried to believe the money meant something. I tried to believe it gave us stability, made us closer, made my parents proud of me. I wanted them to see how hard I was working. How much I was trying. How much I needed them, not because I was weak, but because support is what families do. Except they didn't see it that way. To them, the $700 wasn't help, it was income. It was something they felt entitled to. Week after week after week. There were moments I questioned it. Like when my mom would send casual comments. "We didn't buy groceries yet, don't be late with the transfer." Or when my dad would text, "If you're 5 minutes late picking him up again, we'll need to rethink this arrangement." The bitterness in their tone was impossible to miss. It wasn't support. It was a transaction. Still, I stayed. Still, I paid. Still, I convinced myself that maybe this was temporary. That maybe once I got promoted, or once my son started school, things would get easier. But then came the birthday. The one day my little boy had been counting down to for months. The day he had circled in red marker on his little calendar. And that was the day everything finally unraveled. I remember the night before my son's birthday. He had fallen asleep clutching the paper crown he made at school, mumbling about balloons and cake. I sat beside him, smoothing his hair, thinking how excited he would be to see my parents. He loved them. Despite everything, he loved them in the innocent way children love people who smile at them. I had texted my mom earlier that day. "Party at 3 p.m. Please try to come early. He really wants you both there." She reacted with a thumbs up emoji. Not words. Just an emoji. But I held on to hope. The morning of the party, I sent another reminder. No response. By noon, I called. No answer. By 2 p.m., the pit in my stomach deepened. At 3 p.m. sharp, kids were running around the yard, music was playing, and my son stood by the gate, tiny hands gripping the bars as he looked down the street. "They're coming, right?" he kept asking. I forced a smile. "Of course, baby. They promised." But inside, something felt off. Very off. At 4 p.m., I called again. Voicemail. At 5 p.m., the candles had already melted down twice from reheating the cake. Still nothing. It wasn't until 7 p.m., 4 hours after the party ended, that my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. We couldn't make it. Something came up. No apology. No explanation. No acknowledgement that they had disappointed a child. I tried calling, but they didn't pick up. Not that night. Not the next morning. When I finally spoke to them the following afternoon, the truth they gave me wasn't just heartless. It wasn't just selfish. It was the moment I realized the $700 wasn't support. It wasn't childcare. It wasn't family. It was chains. When my mom finally answered the phone, her voice wasn't sad, apologetic, or even nervous. It was irritated. As if I had inconvenienced her by calling repeatedly. Stacey, what do you want now? We told you something came up. It wasn't the words that hit me. It was her tone. Cold. Dismissive. Detached. Mom, I said slowly, you missed his birthday. He was waiting for you. You didn't even call. She sighed loudly. Stacey, you're exaggerating again. He's a kid. He'll have more birthdays. My breath caught. More birthdays? To him, this one mattered. This one was everything. Just tell me what happened, I said. There was a pause, and I could hear the sound of a TV in the background. Then she said it. The sentence that felt like someone taking a dull knife and dragging it slowly across my chest. We were at your sister's place. She needed us. I froze. My sister. The golden child. The one who never paid them a dime. The one they always made excuses for. What happened? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She bought a new couch, my mom said, and needed help rearranging her living room. I thought I misheard. A couch? My son's birthday was skipped because of a couch? You skipped his party because she bought furniture? I whispered. My mom huffed. Oh, don't be dramatic. She needed us to help move things. It took longer than expected. I felt something inside me fracture. Why didn't you call? I asked. We were busy, Stacey. Busy. Too busy to dial a number. Too busy to send a message. Too busy to respect the child I paid them to care for. My dad took the phone then. Stacey, he said, you know your sister can't do these things alone. She's not as strong as you. You're independent. You handle things. Independent. The word felt like poison. I wasn't independent. I was exhausted. I was stretched thin. I was paying them almost $3,000 a month. And still, in their eyes, my needs always came last. Dad, I said slowly, I give you $700 every single week. And you couldn't be there for 3 hours? There was a pause. A long one. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. Well, you're paying us for childcare, not birthdays. The world went silent. My dad's words echoed inside me, sharp and cutting. You're paying us for childcare, not birthdays. I felt the room tilt. Not because of the money. Not even because of the birthday. But because in that moment, they stopped being my parents. They became people who saw me only in terms of what I provided. Money. Labor. Convenience. Not love. So that's it? I asked quietly. I pay you, so basic respect doesn't apply? You can choose my sister's couch over your grandson and think that's normal? My dad sighed. Stacey, you're making a big deal out of nothing. We'll see him next weekend. But my son didn't need them next weekend. He needed them that day. And they couldn't be bothered. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. Not anger. Not guilt. Clarity. After hanging up, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. From awakening. For 3 years I had convinced myself I was helping them. Supporting them. Holding the family together. But what had they done for me? They watched my child only because they were paid. They prioritized my sister because she needed emotional support. They dismissed my son because he'll have more birthdays. I replayed every moment, every transfer, every time I rushed from work to pick him up so I wouldn't inconvenience them. And I realized something painful. They never saw me as a daughter. They saw me as a paycheck. That night, after putting my son to sleep, I drafted a text. I must have rewritten it 20 times. I wanted to be firm, but not cruel. Clear, but not emotional. Finally, I typed. Starting this week, I won't be sending any more payments. I'll be arranging childcare elsewhere. Thank you for the help you did provide. I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the send button. Was I making a mistake? Could I afford childcare? Would this break my family completely? But then I remembered my son's little face pressed against the gate. Waiting. Hoping. Believing. I hit send. The message left my screen, and it was like dropping a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. For the first hour, there was silence. Then my phone exploded. My mom called 6 times. My dad texted paragraphs. My sister even chimed in with, "Are you seriously doing this to them?" Doing what? Setting boundaries? Stopping a cycle of financial exploitation? At almost midnight, my dad finally sent the message I had expected but still dreaded. "If you cut the payments, we can't help you with your son anymore." Help. The word felt heavy with irony. I typed back one sentence. I don't want your help anymore. And for the first time in years, I meant it. The next morning, my house felt unnaturally quiet. Not peaceful, just unfamiliar. I kept expecting my phone to buzz with another guilt trip or demand. But it didn't. Instead, I made calls. Daycares. Babysitters. A coworker who knew someone. By noon, I had an interview with a small home-based childcare provider. She was kind, warm, and miraculously affordable. Almost the same price I'd been paying my parents, except this woman actually cared. When I picked up my son from school and told him he'd meet a new caregiver, he asked, "Are Nana and Papa still mad?" I knelt in front of him. "No," I said softly. "But we're going to try something different now. Something better." He nodded, trusting me completely. That trust mattered more than anything money could ever buy. The fallout came fast. By the second day, my parents showed up at my house unannounced. My dad knocked so hard the frame rattled. When I opened the door, both of them stood there, arms crossed, faces tight with irritation, not remorse. My mom didn't waste a second. "Stacey, this is ridiculous. You can't just cut us off like that. We rely on that money." There it was. Not "we love you." Not "we're sorry." Not "we should have come to his birthday." Just, "we rely on your money." I held my ground. "You skipped his birthday for a couch." My mom scoffed. "You're still on that?" "We told you she needed help." "And I needed you," I replied. "He needed you." My dad stepped forward. "We gave you 3 years. 3 years of watching him, picking him up, rearranging our schedule. And the second something doesn't go your way, you punish us?" Punish. That word stung. "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm choosing myself. And my son." My mom threw up her hands. "We can't survive without that money. You know that." And that was the moment everything became painfully clear. They never planned to stop taking it. They had built their lives around my contributions. They didn't want support. They wanted dependence. My son peeked from behind me, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. My dad saw him and said flatly, "You're really doing this in front of him?" "No," I said. "I'm doing this for him." And I closed the door. Their muffled voices echoed outside for a few minutes, then faded. For the first time in years, my home felt like mine. The silence lasted almost a week. No calls. No texts. No guilt messages. No sister inserting herself into things she didn't understand. But silence has a way of revealing truth. On day 6, I got a long text from my sister, 3 screenshots worth. The first line read, So you've decided to ruin mom and dad's lives because of one birthday? I stared at the screen, baffled. Ruin their lives? They skipped a child's birthday for her furniture. But somehow, I was the villain. She continued. They've done nothing but help you. You're ungrateful. If you were struggling, they'd give you everything. I almost laughed. Struggling? I had been drowning for years, and every time I reached out, my parents extended a bill, not a hand. Then came the kicker. They told me you're being dramatic and selfish. You should apologize. That was when everything clicked. My parents weren't upset because they hurt me. They were upset because I stopped paying them. Because their income was suddenly gone. Because their golden child didn't contribute a cent. And they expected me to feel guilty. Instead, I felt free. I didn't respond to my sister. I didn't justify myself. I didn't explain. Some truths don't deserve an audience. A few days later, my mom finally texted. This one wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It wasn't accusing. It was desperate. Stacey, we can't cover our bills without your help. Please reconsider. Your dad is very stressed. I stared at it for a long time. The same woman who dismissed my son's feelings. The same woman who told me I was exaggerating. The same woman who couldn't call on his birthday. Now she needed me. I typed back. I'm sorry you're struggling. But I cannot keep sacrificing my son's well-being for your comfort. My decision is final. I hit send. No hesitation this time. The next morning, my dad texted. Fine. If you want to throw away this family over money, that's on you. Money. Always money. He never understood it wasn't about money at all. It was about respect. Love. Presence. Honesty. Things they never offered freely. My sister didn't like my response, or lack of one. She called me the next evening, her voice sharp. You're unbelievable, Stacey. They're breaking down because of you. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply said, did they tell you why they skipped the birthday? She hesitated. Then said, well, she needed help with the couch. And you think that's a good reason? I asked. Silence. For the first time, I realized something. My sister wasn't cruel, she was used to being prioritized. Just like my parents were used to benefiting from me. But that era was ending. I'm not discussing this anymore, I said. My boundaries are set. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in years. I didn't intend to get revenge. Honestly, I didn't even want it. All I wanted was distance, peace, and a healthier life for my son. But sometimes, life has a way of delivering justice in ways you never expect. It started 3 weeks after I stopped the payments. I was walking out of the new childcare provider's home, who, by the way, adored my son, when I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it ring. But then it rang again. And again. Finally, I answered. Stacey? The voice was shaky. It was my dad. What's going on? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. He cleared his throat. We're behind on the mortgage. I said nothing. We thought we could catch up, but, well, your sister needed help last week, and your mother bought some things, and... There it was again. Priorities. Patterns. Choices. What do you want me to do? I asked, genuinely curious. He exhaled heavily. We need you to start helping again. Even half. Something. Once, that plea would have torn me apart. Once, I would have caved instantly. Once, I would have drained my savings to save them. But now? I saw everything clearly. Dad, I said, I can't enable you anymore. You built your budget around my income. That isn't my responsibility. But we're family, he snapped. I swallowed my frustration. Family doesn't treat birthdays like obligations. Family doesn't skip a child's happiness for a couch. Family doesn't only show up for money. He didn't reply. I softened my voice, not out of guilt, but out of honesty. You made choices. Now you live with them. He hung up without saying goodbye. That night, my sister posted something cryptic on her social media. Some people abandon their own parents when they're needed most. I read it, shrugged, and put my phone down. Let people believe what they wanted. The truth didn't need an audience. 2 more weeks passed. And then, karma arrived, in the most ordinary way. I was at the grocery store when I saw my parents standing in line. Their cart was nearly empty. Essentials only. They looked tired, worn, smaller somehow. My mom noticed me, but instead of waving or approaching, she looked away. My dad kept his eyes on the ground. Not angry. Not proud. Just embarrassed. It hit me, then. The revenge wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't a confrontation. The revenge was simply this. They finally had to live without exploiting me. A few days later, my mom sent a long message. And for the first time in years, it wasn't manipulative. It wasn't demanding. It wasn't sugar-coated. It was honest. Stacey. I'm sorry. We took advantage. We depended on your money too much. We shouldn't have missed the birthday. We shouldn't have treated you like that. I hope one day you can forgive us. I sat with the message for a long time. Not crying. Not angry. Just calm. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't owe a quick reply. But eventually, I wrote. I appreciate your apology. I'm focusing on my son right now. We can talk slowly, one step at a time. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was a beginning. A beginning on my terms, not theirs. And that was the real revenge. I rebuilt my life without sacrificing myself. And finally, life has a way of showing us who truly values us, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments when presence matters more than anything. For years, I thought giving more would earn me love, support, or fairness. Instead, it drained me. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was necessary. My son deserved better, and so did I. If you've ever felt taken for granted by the people who should cherish you most, know this: choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival, strength, and the beginning of real freedom.